G'day wherever you may be around the world, and thank you for your company. It's time for Hebrew Roots on Truth2U. I'm Jono, and joining me is Jason's Spiritual Babies. G'day, Mr. Spiritual Babies.
Good morning, Jono.
How you going, my friend?
I'm doing good. Yeah, it's
Excellent.
a nice sunny day here in Ireland.
It was a nice sunny day here too. In Queensland is where I am at the moment. I'm not in country New South Wales. I'm in Queensland on the coast just off Brisbane. And I tell you what, it's nice and warm up here. I've been at the beach the last couple of days. It's really, really nice. But this is not my office, and I feel a little bit out of sorts, Mr. Spiritual Baby. So I'm glad that I've got you to help me through this. What are we doing today?
Today we are looking at Hebrews 9, and we are in the spirit of Indiana Jones, looking for the contents of the Ark of the Covenant. Fun stuff.
Well, I can't make more music over the Truth2U music. I better stop that. But Hebrews chapter 9, and so what we want to do, as we have been doing, you and I, we've been going through the book of Hebrews for those who profess the Hebrew roots, or as they do the Torah Christian movement, or the Messianic movement, or the Hebrew roots movement, whatever it is. Those who desire to go back to the Hebrew and investigate what it says. And so we're looking at the epistle to the Hebrews, and we're taking it back to the Hebrews. Why are we taking it back to the Hebrews, Mr. Spiritual Babies? Because the writer of Hebrews, what's his name?
We do not know.
We don't know.
Maybe it's in here. Maybe we haven't got there yet.
Maybe we haven't.
At the end,
maybe
it all
will be revealed, but at the moment we don't know. And so I'm referring to the writer as what's his name, or what's her name, and they quote exclusively from the Septuagint. When they're quoting from the Tanakh, they quote from the Septuagint, which is the Greek translation of the Tanakh. So what we thought we'd do is let's go through the book of Hebrews. We'll just pick a few bits and pieces here and there where it's quoted. Because did you know, Mr. Spiritual Babies, that the New Testament quotes from the Tanakh 32% of the time? Did you know that?
I did not know that. 32%
of the time. 32% of the New Testament is made up from the Tanakh, the Old Testament. How about that?
Does that leave you with a 66%, which is just made up?
Well, no, now you're going to make me do math, but I think, okay, so I don't know, off the top of my head, I think, what is it, about 25% of the Christian Bible is the New Testament. Of that 25%, 32%, almost 1/3 of it is quoting from the Tanakh, and the rest of it is new material, it's fair to say.
Okay, cool. So what we're doing is we're testing the Tanakh content of the book of Hebrews against the actual content of the Tanakh.
Kind of, yeah. We're just going to take it back, and in this case, it's Hebrews chapter 9. I'm going to read it. You ready?
Okay.
This is how it goes. It goes now. Of course, last week we did do the whole New Covenant, Old Covenant thingamajig in Hebrews chapter 8. Listeners can find that when you go to Hebrew Roots on truth2u.org, truth2u.org. Also, spiritualbabies.net is Jason's Spiritual Babies website. Oh, by the way, and I think I mentioned this last week, there's also Spiritual Babies Facebook page. If you haven't liked that already, you better go and do that. Spiritual Babies on Facebook. But it begins like this. It says, "Then indeed even the first covenant had ordinances of divine service and the earthly sanctuary. For the tabernacle was prepared, the first, in which was the lampstand and the table and the showbread, which is called the sanctuary, and behind the second veil, the part of the tabernacle which is called the holiest of all." Now, first of all, I've got to stop there, Mr. Spiritual Babies, because it's not called the holiest of all. Well, it's called, in Greek, it's Hagia Hagion.
Okay. Which
really is the Holy of Holies.
Right. Actually, I've got the Holy of Holies in my one.
You do? Is that the Holman?
Yeah.
That's Kodesh HaKodesh in Hebrew, Holy of Holies, which goes on to say in verse 4 of Hebrews chapter 9, which had the golden censer and the Ark of the Covenant overlaid on all sides with gold, in which, it says, were the golden pot that had the manna, Aaron's rod that budded, and the tablets of the covenant. And above it were the cherubim of glory overshadowing the mercy seat, of which things we cannot speak in now in detail. We can't do that. We can't talk about this now in detail.
They just speak about it in quite a lot of detail.
No, we can't go on anymore. That's enough detail for you. Let's move on. Is what it says in Hebrews chapter 9, verse 5. Now, by the way, in Hebrews chapter 9, verse 5, it does mention mercy seat.
Right.
And this is this was brought to my attention by Nehemia, because Nehemia Gordon, we did discuss this in Torah Pearls, I do recall, and it fascinated me, and it's worth reiterating, that mercy seat doesn't appear in the Bible anywhere. In fact, you know what? It doesn't even appear here in Hebrews. Truly.
I have looked at this as well, and I think I did a little video on it. But it's only mentioned as a cover.
It's mentioned, beautiful. It's mentioned as a cover. You're absolutely right. And I do believe, I'm going to look it up now, the word is, kaporet.
Kaporet, yeah.
Kaporet. And which is, it's just basically the top of the ark. It's the cover of the ark, right?
Right.
There it is. There's no mercy, there's no seat. And I looked that up, and I found that the word was coined by William Tyndale. Now, he coined a couple of words. He coined Passover. He did that one. He's also responsible for atonement, which is at-one-ment, the state of being at one with God, which he used for the word kippur. And in this case, he has mercy seat. Now, it's not entirely his fault because he got that one from, now, don't get angry at me, people, if I'm wrong, but I do think it was Luther's translation. The German translation had a word which meant seat of grace, and he took it from there and he made up mercy seat. But nowhere in the Bible does it say mercy seat. It says kaporet, and which means like a covering, and the cover of the ark in this case. Anyhow, just a funny little thing, but we're going to go back. Where are we going back to?
We're going back to the contents of the ark. And I think
contents of the ark, because it says in which were the golden pot that had the manna and Aaron's rod that had budded, right?
Right, and we're going to try and witness the contents of these according to Hebrews, and then double check that against eyewitness accounts, I think it's fair to say, of what was in the ark at other periods of time.
Okay, so, well, if I remember correctly, I think this takes us back to, the first one that's mentioned, Mr. Spiritual Babies, is the golden pot, which had the manna.
Right.
Where do we go back in the Tanakh to find that?
Well, I think we can, the first reference I think we've got of the contents, of what they did with the manna is Exodus 16, and I think it's 33 to 34.
Go on.
I'm going to flick there now. Sorry, I'm going to read from 32. Moses said, "This is what Jehovah has commanded. 2 quarts of it are to be preserved throughout the generations, so that they may see the bread I fed you in the wilderness, which I brought you out of the land of Egypt." Moses told Aaron, "Take a container and put 2 quarts of manna in it and place it before Jehovah to be preserved throughout your generations." And so as Jehovah commanded Moses, Aaron placed it before the testimony to be preserved. And so two things actually jumped out at me there. It's not with or in, it's before.
Mm-hmm.
And secondly, we read prior to this that if any manna is kept for any period of time, it just goes moldy.
Oh, that's true. That's a good point. So in this case, I suppose that the manna that is kept to be laid up before the ark is preserved forever.
Right.
Well, that's fascinating because I hadn't thought of that. That's really interesting. Okay.
So I wonder when it says, the last line says, Aaron placed it before the testimony to be preserved. Was there some sort of process that was going to happen there? And it was going to be preserved by Jehovah. The previous one says, and then place it before Jehovah to be preserved throughout your generations. I mean, when I read it, I think that this is to be preserved for the generations, but maybe there's something else going on there. Anyway, the fact is, it's there's a couple of things that jump out. First of all, before the testimony, not in or with testimony.
Not in, no, certainly before. So one would imagine that it is in the vicinity of the ark, maybe beside the ark, but certainly not in the ark. That is not the words that are used. So okay, so that's interesting. So the manna, or the pot of manna, according to the Torah, is not in the Ark of the Covenant as what's her name in the book of Hebrews claims it to be. What's the second one?
Well, actually, no, we can proof that text because that's Exodus 16, and in Exodus 25, from 16 through to 21, it says, "Put the tablets of the testimony which I give you into the ark." So we're going Exodus pretty chronological in most places.
Oh, yeah, it does, yeah.
So if they were told in 16, or Moses tells Aaron in 16 to take it and put it before the testimony, but they don't actually put the stone tablets into the ark until 25, they couldn't possibly have gone into the ark in 16.
Yeah, no, I suppose, but as you quite rightly point out, Exodus 25 verse 16, "Put the tablets of the testimony that I give you into the ark." Also in verse 21 of the same chapter, it says the mercy seat on top. Well, it doesn't say the mercy seat. We've already covered that. On top of the ark, and put the testimony that I will give you into the ark. So we're talking about the two tablets,
Right.
That go into the ark. We know that much. Okay, so there we go. We have the two tablets in the ark, which is the last thing mentioned here in this particular verse of Hebrews chapter 9, verse 4. It says, in which was the golden pot that had the manna, Aaron's rod that had budded, and the tablets of the covenant. That's the testimony that is in the ark, but it's claiming the other two things. Now we've dealt with so according to the Torah, the golden pot of manna is not in there.
I'm going to just have a little look now. I think the next reference to the contents I've got is Deuteronomy 31, 31:26, which also says, "Take the book of the law and place it beside the ark of the covenant of the Lord your God, so that it will remain as a witness against you."
What verse is that?
That's Deuteronomy 31:26.
31:26. Hang on, let me see what it says in the New King James. 31:26. I've got take this book of the law. Yeah, that's right. No, you're absolutely right. The book of the law. Now this is not the two tablets of stone.
No.
This is the. Now you're right. So take the book of the law and put it before the ark. No, you're quite right. That's what it says in Deuteronomy 31:26. So what we have, according to the Torah, is the book of the law before the ark. We have the pot of the manna before the ark. We have the two tablets inside the ark. Aaron's rod that had budded. I've got that. Do you want me to read that?
Yeah, go ahead.
It's in Numbers 17, verse 4. Well, maybe I should read from the beginning. It says, Yehovah spoke to Moses, saying, "Speak to the children of Israel and get from them a rod from each of the father's house, all of their leaders according to their father's house, 12 rods. Write each man's name on his rod, and you shall write Aaron's name on his rod for Levi, and for Levi, and there shall be one rod for the head of each father's household. Then you shall place them in the tabernacle of meeting before the testimony where I will meet with you." Now, they did place it in the tabernacle of meeting before the testimony. That's before the Ark of the Covenant. And what happened overnight is that Aaron's rod budded, right? He not only did it bud, but there were leaves and there was fruit and there was all sorts of stuff going on. And so clearly what was proven was proven. But in verse 10, we go to verse 10, and Yehovah said to Moses, "Bring Aaron's rod back before the testimony to be kept as a sign against the rebels, that you may put their complaints away from me, lest they die." Thus Moses did, just as Yehovah had commanded him, it says in 11, before. So the word is before. Aaron's rod back before the testimony. So again, it's not in the Ark of the Covenant, it's before. So what we have before is the book of the law. We have the pot of the manna. We've got Aaron's rod before the Ark of the Covenant, not in the Ark of the Covenant.
You know, what's become obvious to me is that these three things so far, which are before, are there as a public reminder.
Sure.
So, put this manna here to remind you of the bread, and put this rod here to remind the rebels. It wouldn't be much of a
remind them of what? Remind them of what? Remind them of the eternal priesthood, the everlasting priesthood that we talked about last week, right?
Right.
Now, there's one more verse. Do you know what? There's one more verse that really puts the icing on the cake of this mystery of according to what's his name or what's her name who wrote the book of Hebrews, somebody potentially added to the ark. We go back to the Tanakh, and it seems that according to what Hebrews says is in the ark, according to the Tanakh, has been raided.
Right.
Now, do you know what the final verse that puts the icing on the cake? What is it?
I've got a couple down here. I've got 2 Chronicles 6:11.
Give me that one.
Which says, "I have put the ark there where the Lord's covenant is that he made with the Israelites." So that only mentions the covenant. And I've got 1 Kings 8 and 9. So you may have something else.
No, that's the one I want. 1 Kings chapter 8, verse 9.
Let's have a look. 8, verse 9. "Nothing was in the ark except the 2 stone tablets that Moses had made, put there at Horeb, where the Lord made a covenant with the Israelites when they came out of the land of Egypt."
Read it again. What's the first word?
Nothing.
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 Nothing was in the ark except the 2 stone tablets that Moses had put there at Horeb, where Yehovah made a covenant with the Israelites when they came out of the land of Egypt. All right, well, now listen. According to the Torah, let's just go through it again. According to the Torah, the pot of manna, Aaron's rod, the book of the law, these 3 are before the ark, but not in the ark. What goes in the ark, according to the Torah, is the stone tablets. That goes in the ark of the covenant. And according to 1 Kings 8, verse 9, nothing was in the ark except the 2 stone tablets that Moses had put there. So we go back to Hebrews chapter 9, verses, well, let's look at 4. The Ark of the Covenant overlaid on all sides with gold, in which were the golden pot that had the manna. No. Aaron's rod that had budded. No. And the tablets of the covenant. Yes.
Yay!
Yay! Got that one right. Of which these things we cannot speak in detail now. Now, obviously, we can see why he wanted to get off the topic and onto something else. By the way, now I even referred to my New King James study notes, and it does say the second room, this I'm quoting from the New King James Nelson Study Bible, it says, the second room was the most holy place, containing the Ark of the Covenant, in which were stored symbols of the Mosaic covenant. Did you hear that?
Ah.
Now, this is the way they've understood it. And this is a very scholarly edition. It says, the second room of the most holy place, containing the Ark of the Covenant, in which were stored symbols of the Mosaic covenant. It goes on to say, the pot of manna reminded the people of God's miraculous provision for them in the wilderness. Aaron's rod was a sign of the authority of the priesthood. God had ordained Aaron and his sons to be representatives of the people before him. And the tablets were the 10 Commandments given to the nation on Mount Sinai. So according to this publication and their study notes, and I do believe most scholars would agree, that Hebrews, the book of Hebrews, the epistle to the Hebrews, chapter 9, verse 4, is certainly suggesting or claiming that all of these items were in the Ark of the Covenant. Okay.
Yep. I'm kind of, my brain, I'm working out spaces, and I'm wondering if Aaron's rod wouldn't have been like, could you fit that in the ark? Man, I'm going to have to go back and have a look at the measurements and see, like, is it conceivable that a 6-foot rod of wood would be able to fit into a...
I see your point. It's a very good point. In any case, there it is. That's the difference. There's some homework for you, dear listeners. Is there anything we want to add to that?
I don't think so. I think that's rounded
we're good.
Nicely.
Okay, can we close this off with a little bit of Indiana Jones?
Oh, we're totally going to do that.
Done. All right. Thank you, my friend Jason. Spiritual Babies. The website is spiritualbabies.net. You've been listening to Hebrew Roots with Jono and Jason on Truth2U.org, truth2u.org.
Thank you very much. You go and enjoy the beach.
I'm going to go enjoy the beach. And until next time, dear listeners, be blessed and be set apart by the truth of our Father's Word. Amen. Shalom.